Okay, welcome everybody to the Beer and Skittles podcast. This week we are going to be talking heavy spoilers about a couple of shows and a new movie that are out. We're going to start things off talking about Avatar The Last Airbender, the live action remake that Netflix just dropped. We'll be talking about One Love, and we will also be talking about Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the show based on the 2005 movie. If you haven't seen any of these things and want to avoid the spoilers, go watch them. Somewhere, somehow, watch the originals, watch the new ones. These things aren't new. Avatar's been out for how long? The original?
I mean, I know for a fact it's over a decade. I know it
Because
wasn't
I
out when
feel
I was
like
like
that's the thing
14.
that people would be like, "Hey, spoilers," and it wouldn't be about like the new live action. They'd be like, "I haven't seen the cartoon yet." And it's like that's not on me. That
Yeah.
show's been out.
The new Avatar and the old Avatar, all episodes are out on Netflix.
Yes,
Mr. and Mrs. Smith is out on Amazon Prime, all episodes. And
the movie.
One Love, the Bob Marley biopic, is out in theaters now. So I might not get into too heavy spoilers with that one, but definitely for Mr. and Mrs. Smith and for Avatar there will be. So get off of here, go watch some shows, come back, join us for the fun, so you're not lost in these conversations. If you don't care and you just want our recap, that's cool too. We're happy to give it to you.
Yeah,
So I know you are very excited to get right into Avatar. So
yeah. No,
we're gonna kick it off right there.
I I'll say this to begin with. It's not perfect. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
perfect adaptation. It's not a perfect. It's 100% not a one for one recreation. It's not perfect, but I don't hate it, and that's my feeling.
All right, I think we need to start at the top here because
Yeah,
I went through a couple of different array of emotions coming into this show. Coming into the show with the previews that we had, the onset pictures, the casting photos, everything looked amazing. The info
yeah.
we had about this thing was that it was going to be fantastic. Uh,
Well,
going into it, I was very excited.
I think the other thing is too is that I was very excited going into the show originally when it was announced because the original creators of Avatar were attached to this project, and they left at some point during development due to creative differences. And I think that does make all the difference as we talk about this and get into it a little bit later. Um, they left for a reason, and I can kind of see where things might have changed after their departure. Um, and it's very different from everybody has something to say. Everybody's talking about this show, and everybody has their issues with certain things. When they did the One Piece live action, they worked with Oda, the creator of One Piece, to create that, and any changes they made went through him for approval. There was a lot of respect and a lot of love given to that remake, and it did really well. I love the One Piece live action.
Mm.
So these things can be done. These adaptations can be done when working with the. I mean, look at Percy Jackson as well. We talked about that last week. There's when done the right way, these adaptations can be phenomenal. I think starting at the top, starting with episode 1, we immediately get a flashback to Sozin's comet and Sozin making the decision that he's going to kill the airbenders and whatever. This is something that was never shown in the show. We never get the massacre of the airbenders in the show. When we see it, which again, it's a kids show, so that's part of the reason.
Yeah, we see it
but
we kind of see the process of it in the flashback with Roku later on in the season.
but we
But not to that
even
extent where it's them showing up.
even the little thing of Aang walking into the air temple, into the southern air temple, and finding Gyatso, and his just a skeleton, right?
Mm.
And there's firebender helmets all over the place, which for one goes to show that the airbenders are not weak. But two, it's the reality of war. And it's like you don't make a movie, like you don't make a thing about like telling people war is bad. You show them, right? And that's what the cartoon did. It showed us without having to actually show us the death and the massacre. I'm not mad at the first episode doing that. It sets a different tone. Um, a big thing people flipped out about initially too is Aang flying, quote unquote. I believe that he was gliding down from one pillar to the next down till he hit the ground, and I think that that's what it is. I don't think he learned how to fly. It's not like Zahir in Legend of Korra where he actually Superman flies. Aang is just gliding. That's what he does. He's an airbender. It's not outside of his repertoire of skills to fucking glide.
Yeah,
From
and
building to building.
even with it, like I know they make a big deal about Zahir flying, but most of Aang's wheelhouse when it comes to fighting is evasion. And most of the time when he's evading, it's him taking giant leaps and using air to propel himself and to take these massive jumps and stuff. So that kind of also comes in with being an airbender without the gliding. So yeah, maybe if you show him going over the Atlantic Ocean without a glider, I'd be like, well, I mean, I don't know what kind of oceans
He's
they
flying,
got.
yeah.
But yeah, he's flying. But if he's going from a place to a place, I mean, it's like I mean, way different because he has super strength, but like the Incredible Hulk jumping mountains because of just how strong he is. And
it's like
how
the opposite of it. He's falling with style. That's all it is. Like it's nothing crazy. So I will say too, Gyatso, there were certain characters that I absolutely loved, and I think the castings for most of these characters were on point. Gyatso was incredible. And there's a moment later on in the season that we'll talk about that I loved with him. But we get Aang, he's frozen in ice, right? We then go to the Southern Water Tribe. Here's a change that bothered me. Katara is the one that initially cracks open the iceberg that awakens Aang. In the live action, it's her pulling the boat closer because it's moving away from them so they can get back on. Her bending nearby is what cracks the iceberg and wakes up Aang. In the original, and this is the reason I don't like this change, is because it's a detrimental change to her character, is she's yelling at Sokka about just, I'm done helping you, but I do everything. I do your dirty laundry. Do you know what your socks smell like? And as she's doing it and she's angry and she's flipping out, her waterbending cracks open the iceberg. They changed this. And from then on, how many times do we really see Katara yell in the show? Or be angry?
No. And, it's my... So, I'm going to piggyback and also move around a little bit.
Yeah.
I went to the show with high hopes. There's just a lot of things with the casting, the pictures, the behind the sets, behind the scenes, all things that you were seeing online. Everything looked so promising.
Yeah.
And I knew, you're not getting a shot for shot, and you don't really want it. If I was gonna get a shot for shot, I would just rewatch the cartoon.
And to be fair, there are moments that are literally ripped right out of the show.
But one thing, I went into the show. You finished it before me, and I watched the first 2 episodes. And you were like, "Did you finish it? Because we have to talk about it." And I answered, "Yeah, I'm only like 2 episodes deep." If I wasn't recording this show, I don't think I would have finished this show. Like, it's something that you have to do. Your episode 1 and your first episode has to draw people in such a big way, because that is how you capture people's attention nowadays, especially nowadays with attention spans being so short, and you want them to watch an hour episode and then want to watch it over and over again so you get 8 episodes. You have to draw me in on that first episode, and I wasn't impressed. I mean, I get, these are younger kids, not really big names. I don't know their experiences in the industry. I felt like they were reading off the script as if they just had a TV in front of them and they were reading, especially with Aang and Katara. They looked so promising going in, and I felt like I didn't get anything from their character. Katara is maternal in the best and worst way possible. That is her 100%. Stick through the show. She is a nag, but she cares. I didn't get that. Yes. She felt just like a shy little girl.
Well,
and Aang wasn't so happy and animated. He was just kind of there.
That's the thing. And I get that I do get that she cares. I do think that she is very caring and loving in the show. But there is an anger there to this character, right?
And I think it's going to make it even worse in season 2.
When we get to her bloodbending?
Well, that, and when she starts having interactions with Zuko. Because that's really when it comes out.
Well, also, here's the other thing. It's not. It's with everybody.
No, it's with everybody, but you
But
know that emotion she gets when she talks to Zuko in the following seasons
one
because
hundred
of how
percent.
strongly she feels with Aang and how bad she thinks Zuko is.
We also well because she blames Zuko and his family for killing her mother, which is fair, and she has a lot of sadness around her mom and the death of her mom, and everything that happened to her village, but we don't really see any of the anger that comes with it, which she does have. She's not fighting with them. There was one scene where she fights with Sokka, and that's when they're in Omashu, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was over Jet, which makes sense. But if she's not really fighting with Sokka, can I trust them to make her fight with Toph the way they do in season 2? Because there's so much comedy there.
So I actually really enjoyed Sokka. Like, the gripe was with Sokka going into this. About 2 weeks before the show released, there's a quote that came out saying that they made Sokka not sexist, which is going to be the only time on the internet where people are going to gripe with the fact that you made a character more PC. But it's because of his character. But so like going in, I was like, fuck, I'm not gonna enjoy Sokka. Like, he's not gonna be funny, and he's not gonna learn the lessons that he's gonna then gain later on, which we don't know because Sokka doesn't really kind of gain that kind of respect until he becomes the swordsman in the later seasons and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed him. I felt like his personality still showed through. I mean, I think the guy who played him did a very good job. I mean, again, you didn't get those moments that you look for between him and his sister, but I think you still recognize him.
I think he was good. Again, I don't think a lot of this, I don't know that it's the actors or actresses' fault. I think Sokka was good. I do think that some of the little nuances of making him less sexist is that, first of all, they're kids, right? Mm-hmm. And they're kids that are in the middle of trying to save the world from a 100-year-long war. Okay? Like, let that sink in. Of course he's going to be sexist. He also is like the leader. His dad left him in charge. What I think...
Also, they didn't stray away from sexism in general, because Paku's still sexist.
Yes, exactly. So
and they they're northern and southern water tribes, but they kind of have the same ideals. So why wouldn't Sokka, the leader of his tribe, have the same as Paku?
And I think, like, you get later on in that, like, when she goes and confronts Paku, like, he supports her 100% in doing that. It would have been a bigger moment had he already learned the lesson that he learned with Suki, right? Where in the cartoon, it's, oh, I thought you were just a girl. You're a girl. You are a warrior. And she's like, I'm a girl and a warrior. And it's moments like that that make Sokka grow. Because we also get the moments later on in the show, that in the cartoon, that Sokka talks about, I don't remember what my mother's face looks like. It's been Katara for so long. I don't even remember my own mother's face. That's a powerful thing to get to from the kid he is at the beginning.
But it also goes back to Katara and how she reacts in the moments, which we didn't get in the show.
Correct.
Which is what started this conversation. Again, so this first episode, I wasn't drawn in. I felt like I wasn't getting the most out of these actors, whether it was the script or the actors. I felt like what they were given felt like they're reading a teleprompter. I didn't get the animation of Aang. I didn't get the
and that's the other thing that's missing from him.
Katara. I think he gets it a little bit later. It comes a little bit later, but it's still not to the point where I would like it.
He's not having fun. He's not having fun at all. And like, that's the other big thing with his character is he's only 12. He wakes up out of an iceberg and he wants to go penguin sliding. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean?
Dude, I mean, he's shot out on a ball of wind, just zooming around an icy desert. Like, that's just who he is, and that's how he continues to be.
And we're missing that. He gets right into, I need to save the world. He wasn't like that.
No, because he didn't even really know he had to save the world.
Right.
He didn't know that, and he didn't want to accept it, which they touch on a bit, that he didn't want to be the Avatar, that he didn't want to accept these roles. Yeah. But it feels like they're not digging into it. But it's supposed to speak on his character. And, like, there's a lot of avatars, and they all have their different personalities. And to me, it might be because we got a whole season of them. But Aang is almost the most Avatar of all the avatars. He is so jovial and has so much belief in peace and bringing together people and all these things. And it stems from the fact that the same treatment that you would give like a Nightwing or a Spider-Man in comic book terms, where this guy is so down on his luck and he gets been fucked over so much. Everyone he knows and ever loved is gone, and yet he can do anything with a smile
Well,
on his face and see the
and
best
I
in people. And I feel like we're not getting that.
and I loved Gyatso in the show, in this live action. I think the actor who played Gyatso did a really, really good job. Before we even get into Gyatso, I will say, speaking on the episode with Suki, the Kyoshi Warriors looked incredible. I think they were the
I have no
best
problem
looking.
with the designs of anything.
I
The
think
designs for everything were amazing.
Speaking of visually, the cities looked incredible. The animals looked amazing. The spirits looked so cool.
Yeah, you know what was weird? I saw some complaints about setting and the set designs. And I think it's
Really?
because people aren't used to the amount of practical that went into this anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
They
some of
made
it's
it
obviously CGI'd, like
Yeah, no,
when we
there's
get these
CGI big
huge.
things,
Yeah.
but like there's a lot of practical set pieces
Yeah.
in this, especially when you're talking about in the beginning in the Southern Water Tribe. Those igloos, they're just igloos. Like that's not a CGI igloo. Like, you can tell, and I think people almost see it as corny, but I think of it as amazing because
No, I thought it
it
was cool.
looks real and it looks practical.
A lot of people had complaints about the costumes too. I think the costumes looked fine. Some of the wigs, I will say, yeah, they were a little, you could tell, but
UA's was a little funky.
that's what a lot of people, but it's also the nature of, we're trying to, what they were 100% trying to pull from the cartoon to this was the looks and get the looks down, and some of their hairdos just don't really translate, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
she has
well.
giant white hair that is done up a million ways. It's not easy to capture, so I can understand that. But yeah, so as I was telling you, the first two episodes I went in, I was like, I'm not enjoying this. And even as a viewer and a fan of the show, I didn't want to keep watching it. Like, I think you really have to pull someone in, and I really wonder, because you know as well as I know, and some other people that are listening will know, you don't shoot in order of everything. So I would like to know kind of at what point the creators fell out.
Yeah.
I would like to
Yeah.
know whether because I liked the second half. Like, it drew me back in, so I had a little bit of a roller coaster of emotions and feelings about how this was going. But I would like to see kind of where they fell out and if maybe they weren't the ones in charge of those first two episodes.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think, and this is the other thing, they wouldn't have made some of these changes, and I think at the early on. Now, this show, this season, is as long as the animated one was, and they still cut a lot and combined a lot, and you see it.
I can almost see why. I think there's some things that they shouldn't have, and I think it takes away from things. However, I can see why, because they made it hour-long episodes, and if you're having an episode, your episode has to be concise. So instead of doing 22 20-minute episodes, which I get is hard to do in live action nowadays. But so if you go with hour-long episodes, now you're packing 3 storylines into one episode. You have to combine them. You have to cut some stuff. The overlap.
And I get
try
that.
to make it concise. I get it, but there's points where
some of it works, some of it works, and some of it doesn't. The episode we get the most, I think, or the first time we see it, is when we get to Omashu. Right out the gate, they've combined the Omashu storyline with Bumi, with Jet, and also with Teo, the Mechanist.
Yes.
So all of these storylines are now running.
Which I think is also an important thing that they cut out, because Aang has so much hope going to the Northern Air Temple, and it feels so much disrespect when he sees what they're doing to his temple. And it's an emotional episode for him, and they take it away by putting it in Omashu.
Yes, and I think the other thing is too, with Jet, Jet works. We see
Jet worked. Yeah,
we see the Firebenders, but here's the issue I have with Jet. It works, and it's still it doesn't hurt it as much, but Jet going to use the blast jelly to blow up the king and his entourage, right? He's blowing up the most important people in the city who he thinks are corrupt. in the cartoon, it's so much darker because he's going to flood an entire village of women, children, and everything. That Sokka then stops by getting everybody out of the village. It's so much darker than just, oh, I'm killing the king because he's corrupt. No, you almost killed all of these women and kids just to get a couple of firebenders. So, yes, it still works, that change they made, but it doesn't paint the same image of Jet of like, I will do absolutely anything.
I think it's because Jet was kind of a fan favorite, what you don't really expect when you create a character like that in a show that has like a short lifespan.
Yeah.
You don't really expect him to capture people's attention. It's really inadvertent. It's just a factor of good writing. That it just happens. Like people get attached to characters because you did them so well. And I
I will
think they
say,
really want to make him even more likable because
yeah.
he got so much love from before.
Well, and
So
his
I
gang
get
looked
it.
awesome. Pipsqueak, Smellerbee, they all looked great. I think, again, the designs, the looks of everybody were really on point. But combining all of these 3 episodes, I don't know, it just felt a little rushed in an hour-long episode.
Well, and so that's where I'm. It's my gripe with the show in general. Again, I get it. You're doing live action. Live actions work in hours now. There's no half-hour live action unless it's a sitcom. That's just not how TV really works nowadays. Oh, all
Pissed
right,
me
fucking...
off. Pissed me off. I just remembered the cabbage guy. Pissed me off.
Yeah. He didn't.
They use the rule of 3. Which, you do the joke 3 times. Just let him say fucking cabbages. Every time he almost said it and didn't, I was pissed. Because it's such a running joke in the entire series that I was like, I don't care if he says it 10 times. Let him fucking say it. Yeah, no, it pissed me off. Again, Omashu. The Omashu episode pissed me off.
Okay, so now we got 2 episodes where they're in Omashu.
Yes.
They're combining a lot of storylines here to go about this. And here's my biggest thing. You just talked about yours. Here's mine. It comes the very next episode. Some people liked it, and I don't know how. Boomy. Everything with Boomy felt so non-on brand. The look didn't look bad, but it looked like nothing felt right. Like, by some miracle of God, there is a man out there that is so powerful that he lasted to be 110 years old minimum. And he would be the only person that Aang could ever relate to and talk to about what he was like before.
And
the bond and the moments that they have is integral. And that episode is probably my favorite episode of the entire first season in the animated show. And they cut
and it's so
all
different.
of it.
Yep.
The entirety. Aang figures out it's Boomy immediately, and Boomy could honestly not really give a fuck.
It's crazy because the whole point of that episode was, who is this guy? Because he shouldn't be alive. And that's the whole test, is who am I? He finds out he's Boomy right away. Bothered me. Boomy had his sense of humor. I will give him that. He was doing the corny little jokes, and he had the laugh.
A little bit, but almost... Yeah, the laugh was on point. But almost... Like, I felt like in the original, I loved Boomy. He was so funny. I almost found him annoying. Because he felt menacing. Like, it was weird.
No, because why was he berating and belittling Aang? He never would have done that in the cartoon. He knows that Aang disappeared, but that was his best friend. He never would have talked to Aang like that of, this is your fault. And what are you doing? Yeah. You're doing nothing. You're lazy. And then, he never would have done that.
And, like, part of it is Aang rushing through these tasks because Katara and
Sokka are trapped in crystal.
They're trapped in crystals, and he has to save their life, so he's rushing. That's why he's not even thinking about Boomy. Like, he's trying to save his friends, and then he's like, Boomy? Like,
and then they're trapped in rock candy. It's fantastic.
Like, there's so much that they left out of that episode, and it killed me.
You know what I did like? They actually made this change. I don't know if you noticed, because it's not really in your face. The story of Oma and Shu. about the creation of the city.
Mm-hmm.
They actually changed it. It's 2 women in the live action.
Oh, didn't catch on. Now you say that, yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that because even the original creators of Avatar, now you've seen parts of Legend of Korra, right? I don't know if you've seen all of it.
No,
They,
I've seen the entirety of Legend of Korra where they gave you that fake lesbian scene at the end,
which because
which is
Nickelodeon
fine.
would,
No,
which
yeah,
is fine because
Nickelodeon for
Nickelodeon
kids
wouldn't let them
over a
go
decade
there,
ago. Yeah,
right?
I know.
So none of this seems that small change doesn't seem off brand to me. I feel like when they first made Avatar, that might have been something they actually wanted to do, but couldn't because Nickelodeon, at the time would have said no, absolutely not. But yes, I'm glad you brought up Boomy because it pissed me off too.
Yeah, I saw some people like Boomy. I'm like, how the fuck did you like this? Like,
No,
like my
absolutely not.
favorite episode from the animated became my least favorite episode.
You know
of
what I
this
you know what I
entire
liked?
ordeal.
You know what I like that they changed? The bison whistle is from Boomy. I did like that change. Instead of
Okay.
just coming from a market, he held it and that's, but so that change I was like, okay, that makes it like the whistle is actually like sentimental as well. But everything else was like,
Also,
why
they
did you
did
do
like they
this?
gave us like even when they showed them as kids for like that short like 20-second scene, like it felt like
Barely.
they had no connection. Like
Yeah.
they didn't seem like friends. They just seemed like kids that met each other. Like that was
So
it. It felt like just an airbending master just met a prince. That was it. Like it didn't feel like there was any connection or friendship. They didn't even ride the slides going around the city. Like it just
no,
it felt like
no.
they had no
Again,
relationship.
Aang's not having any fun. They talk about it, but we don't see it. Before we even, you know what, we can actually go forward because it'll come back up again. From there, we get another combination of episodes, right?
Is that
We get
Spirit one? No, that's
yes,
the Spirit one.
So, and this is what bothered me. They combined the Spirit of the Forest episode with Ko, who we should have met later on in the season, and it all runs together from there. And let's go through it a little bit, just because it literally runs all together because they combined all of these things. For one, we never get an actual solution to the spirit of the forest. Does he change back into a panda and become the spirit of the forest again? Who knows? Because they completely throw it away after, because it's now Ko is the villain.
He just bargained for their lives.
But
that was it.
But the spirit of the forest, like when it attacked them on the path when they then got split up, he looked awesome. It looked exactly like the monster in the show. It looked great. Ko looked great. I also don't know if you caught the owl is the same owl that runs the library.
What was that?
Why was he introduced early? It doesn't hurt anything. But
why?
But why?
Why?
Ko.
Like, and also, it wasn't like an integral. Like it just happened.
Yeah. Ko. We meet Ko. He becomes the villain. Okay, fine, whatever. What changes is one, so much of everything just changes from there. Now, in order to save them, he needs to go talk to Roku, right?
Yes.
So now he's traveling to Roku's island by himself, to his temple. We're now also getting June is introduced, who looked absolutely fucking incredible.
Oh, perfect. The casting perfect, the design perfect. The monster, I forget the thing's name. Yes. I don't know if it has a name.
Looked awesome.
Fucking awesome. Yeah, perfect. It looked perfect.
So he's on his way to Roku's island now. And he gets there to find out how to defeat Ko. Weird. Because really he went to go see to go see Roku to get more information, and Roku actually gives him more information. I think Roku was great.
Yeah, Roku underrated. Even in the old animation, I wish I could see more of Roku. Such an underrated avatar. Go ahead.
We get he's in the temple. He talks to Roku. Now, if you remember in the cartoon, Roku then takes over Aang's body to defeat the monks at the temple.
Yeah,
that's
but
changed.
Instead they gave that scene to Kyoshi for some reason.
Which I don't have a problem with them doing that with Kyoshi because it was cool. I wish they had kept doing that and did it with Roku. But instead, we don't get it with Roku because June takes out the monks.
Yeah.
And June then captures Aang. She then delivers him. They did also change. Iroh's not flirting with June, so it's not as creepy and weird. And I thought it was hilarious that she was flirting with Iroh. Like, it just was funny to me. When we also actually, the one thing I did like too in the earthbending episode in Omashu, I liked the conversations that Aang got to have with Iroh, because Aang doesn't get to talk to Iroh in the cartoon until way later in the show. And I thought those conversations were actually really good.
Yeah, isn't it? Was it the second season when? I think late in the second season after
And I don't think he
Zuko
even
goes
realized who
missing.
Iroh is when he talks to
Yeah.
him in the cartoon.
No, he's like, you remind me of my grandson, or something like the conversation kind of goes like that.
But I do like the conversations that they had in the live action. I thought those were really nice additions because
he runs into him in the forest and he's making tea, and they sit and they drink tea together. Yeah, he's like, you remind me of my grandson. You carry so much burden and responsibility. Da, da, da. And he's talking about Zuko, the guy that's trying to kill him the entire time.
I think Zuko was great. I loved Iroh too.
Iroh grew on me. I didn't feel him. Oh, one thing that I don't think was in the animation. I know you started going on a trip and started rewatching the animation after this, so you might be a little more updated than me. The episode that we were just talking about, June captures the Avatar, delivers him to the ship. They have him on the ship. Whatever. Zuko helps get him out and everything like that. He comes back. You know, the
another
mask,
combination of things.
But he looked amazing in the mask.
The blue spirit.
Being the blue spirit was amazing. I actually liked that part of the episode. I thought he killed it. The action sequences were great. But which I liked. This is a good change that I liked. Which I don't know if it's a change. I'm pretty positive. They talk about Zuko saving the entire crew's life.
Yes, and this is what I loved, and this is what I love. So let's get into that real quick.
Yes, okay. So for those of you guys that might not know what we're talking about, or they didn't see this and are just watching this anyway,
it all has to do with the Agni Kai.
Yeah, Zuko goes into Agni Kai and gets banned from the Fire Kingdom because he wanted to save an entire platoon of men that they were just going to throw away because they thought they were new soldiers and they were useless. They were expendable, in the words of his father. Loses the Agni Kai, gets banned. His father doesn't think he learns a lesson, sends him off to find the Avatar, which in their eyes is a guy that's been gone for 100 years and is really just leave. It's really just him banishing him.
Banished,
and he tells him, he's like, oh, and that crew of men that you care so much about, you can
take them with you.
Take them with you.
Since you care so much about
journey.
The 41st, you can take them with you. And first of all, Ozai was incredible.
Ozai's incredible. I love that casting. But so yeah, they basically say that Zuko is no longer allowed the Fire Kingdom because he wanted to save the lives of his people. Not because he's some holy person that wanted to save the entire world. No, but he did want to save his people.
He doesn't understand his dad's side of things, and he's more like Iroh in that sense. What is also really nice is the same episode prior to finding out about the 41st, which we slowly find out in that episode, especially because his Lieutenant Guy, doesn't know this. The crew doesn't know any of this.
I love the lieutenant. He was great. Was he an actual character or was he an addition?
He's like an actual character, but very minor in like the.
Okay, yeah. So he got a more major role, and I loved his role in there. He's getting shit kicked by Zuko the entire time. Zuko's yelling at him, and he's he tells Iroh, he's like, "Yeah, why do we care about your nephew? He's a little shithead."
I love that he says, he may be a prince, but he's not our prince. He's never had to suffer. He's never gone through anything. He's never sacrificed. And Iroh's like, you have no idea how much that boy has sacrificed, and it's such a powerful moment, and it is like Zuko has gone through a lot.
He tells him the story. He tells the lieutenant the story, and then Zuko comes back to the ship, and he comes back to a hail of men saluting him and opening a path for him to come in because they finally realize that he's
the only one who cared,
and he might be a prick.
Yeah.
But he's not the asshole that tried to kill you.
Well, and that's the thing people forget too, is Zuko, he's sassy and he's a brat and he whines a lot and he's got a lot of anger. He's 16 years old and his father burnt his face. And his sister is a bitch.
Yeah, and also there's some form of that where he was a prince and also got no love as a kid, to where he lacks all
Yes.
social skills. So he has no idea how to interact with people. Half the time, he's not trying to be mean. He just doesn't know what to do. Like,
He
I
doesn't.
remember,
Yeah.
like, coming into the third season when he finally tries to meet up with Team Avatar. He's like, "Hey guys, Zuko here," he's pondering it for so long, trying to figure out how to introduce himself. Because he never has to do that. Like, he doesn't have friends. He doesn't have people to talk to. Anything. So I love
There's
that moment that humanized him, and that's part of what started to grow me more towards Iroh. A moment like that, because again, everybody
yes.
loves Iroh, but I didn't love him when I first saw him on screen. But he started coming more around to me for reasons like that.
I almost cried during the episode with Iroh because it's a new scene. Iroh leaves and it's the scene. I think it's actually, it might be right before that. It's the episode when Iroh is shackled by the Earthbenders and he's being transported when Zuko goes to save him. We get the flashback to when he left the siege of Ba Sing Se after, trying to lay siege to Ba Sing Se. He leaves because his son dies, which we find out way later in the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
The funeral scene in the live action of him at his son's funeral. First of all, they were playing his song, so I almost started crying.
Which I'm sure and I hope that you'll see him singing later.
I'm sure it'll come back up, but I loved Ozai comes up to him and, does his little brother and whatever. It's very distant, it's very cold. Zuko has a really tender moment with Iroh because of the death of his uncle, his cousin, because of the death of his cousin, and he gives Iroh that the medal, and then he sits with him, and I just thought that whole flashback of Iroh's son and everything was just really, really well done, and it goes to show just how close these two are. Outside of that,
I don't know if this was, again, you are way more recent.
Yeah.
Now when we're talking about the relationship with Zuko and Iroh, they show the flashback of when he was banished and when they start the crew. He doesn't know Iroh's coming with him, and Iroh shows up and he has a bag full of tea, and he's like, "Oh, I got my tea. I got everything I need." He's like, "You don't have anything but me." He's like, "I got everything I need," and they're like gonna cry. Like, you could see it in their faces, that like, the emotion that Iroh's carrying, that he goes on this journey with Zuko because he knows that he needs him, and he also needs him
and he
as
can't,
well.
Iroh can't say it the way he wants to Zuko because of how Zuko is and the way he reacts, but it's I have everything I need on that boat, which is, and then he covers it with all the tea I need, and he goes on but it's such a great moment between these characters. The same episode with the Blue Spirit, right? When he saves Aang, the conversation that they have is longer. After Zuko passes out and he wakes up, it is a little bit of a longer conversation that they have together in the live action, and I liked it. I liked when Aang's talking to him about what is it, goat hair or sheep hair or whatever for your brush.
Oh yeah, with his penmanship and in the notebook. Yeah,
I thought it was a nice moment that they had. Before Zuko's like, "You're my enemy still," and attacks him.
No, yeah. So we gotta jump ahead. We still have 2 more things to talk about, and I can see our time. We're just gonna end up being a 2-hour episode if we just keep talking about Avatar. But so let's get more towards the finale here. They make it to the Northern Water Tribe. And one, it looked fantastic. Everything except for Yue's wig looked fantastic. Paku was great. All the castings that they had over there were amazing. I liked this finale, which again I think is the saving grace for me, because I went into this excited, got the first 2 episodes, was disappointed. Finale really brought me back around. I don't think they really missed a beat on it. The entire ending with the general and the koi fish and Aang, his interaction after the fact. I mean, seeing him as that fucking kaiju basically in live action was sick. Nothing
I
short
think
of fucking amazing.
I think it was incredible, and I think that there's like the fight with Paku and just General Zhao's or Admiral Zhao by that point. Um, his whole attack, it was really well executed. It looked amazing. Aang fusing with the water spirit, incredible. The Northern Water Tribe in the finale is very well done, like you said. It's beautiful, the look of it, the whole city. I think they really captured that whole ending. We get they changed Yue a little bit. I don't know how I feel about it.
One thing, I feel like we didn't really build a relationship with Yue and Sokka, which I think is like a little weird that you would do that, because it like kind of is like his first girlfriend, as he like describes later. Like, yeah, my first girlfriend turned into the moon. Like that's a joke that comes on later. So I feel
Yeah.
like they really didn't build a relationship with Yue and Sokka, which would be my gripe with that episode.
Well, it
Really
was
is.
weird that they made her a fox spirit in the one episode.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that.
Like, why? Why is
I
she a
guess
fox? Why did they do this?
just to show that she can play around with the spirit world. I don't know. They just did it.
No.
She
So
felt foxy to them. I don't know. I don't have an explanation.
foxy. Paku was great. I think they handled that well. The fight scene was awesome. I think you still get that lesson learned. The final fight with Zhao, Admiral Zhao, who was great in this as well, the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
His final fight is with Zuko, because they don't really have their Agni Kai in the show like they did in the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
And Iroh's the one that then takes him out instead of the ocean spirit. I don't think it changes much. I will. Here are my biggest gripes. Changes they made that I absolutely despised. Okay? We get to the end of the finale. Katara says she's going to teach. Well, I'm a master now, and I'm going to teach you waterbending.
She's not a master.
She's not a master, first of all. Also, I don't know if you caught this. Outside of the Avatar state, Aang doesn't fucking waterbend once. Not a single time does that kid ever bend water if he's not in the Avatar state. And it bothered the hell out of me. At no point does he try to learn.
Katara's already supposed to be teaching him water bending. Like, what I thought was weird is that, like, I feel like they downplay Katara's bending abilities. Granted, she doesn't have a formal teacher. She's self-taught, which they touch on. There's no waterbenders since she was a little kid. She has grown up with zero waterbending, but she's supposed to be a little more advanced than just swirling around water in a bowl. And then she becomes a master by the end of the season with still no teaching, and not teaching Aang anything, just from the scroll.
Yeah.
Just from the scroll.
Aang doesn't do anything. He doesn't learn waterbending. He doesn't even try. And he's like, I can't do it right now.
Yeah, so
I'm too.
So we're basically going to get all the waterbending with all the earthbending in the next season.
No, he'll probably just start season 2 and he can be a waterbender already. Like, they're just going to time jump in.
He's also going to be a master.
Yeah.
Some crazy shit.
Which, one of the things I hated they changed, speaking of learning bending. I don't know if you caught this. This isn't season 1. They took out Zhang Zhang's character, who was Aang's first firebending teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And Aang
learned when he burns Katara.
He goes to learn firebending. He ends up burning Katara, and it scares him. And that moment of him being scared of firebending is going to carry through to season 3 when he then needs to learn firebending.
Yeah, because that's when he has the mental block and he can't do it because he's afraid that he is going to hurt those around him because it's the most dangerous element.
Yeah, and I think that small something like that, it seems like a small moment. It has an impact on the show later on.
Yeah, it almost feels like he's not like he's trying to be the Avatar because he's trying to save the world, but he's not trying to be the Avatar. He's not trying to learn anything. He's just on his journey to warn the Northern Tribe. Like it feels
Yep.
like that is lost. That he's not trying to learn any of the elements.
Right. And the other big change that they made, and this is my biggest fucking problem with the show, is Azula. I don't think the casting is bad. She has that crazy look in her eyes. But why are her flames not blue?
Well, I think she shows a little bit of blue. I think they're gonna develop her towards it.
I don't want
think that's what they're
fucking
going for.
development. I don't fucking want it. I don't want it.
I
don't
just
want
think that
her
because
to
one,
develop.
they showed I think a flash of blue at some point when she got angry, and
Yes,
they showed her
yes.
lightning. So they're showing how powerful she is, and I do like introducing Azula in season 1 because I believe in the first season we don't see Azula. We don't really get
No.
anything from Azula, in the first season. So I do like her introduction and giving her side of a story, but I feel like it also goes in the wrong way to where the dad is almost treating her the same as Zuko when she's supposed to be the favorite because of how naturally gifted she is. But instead, it's almost like he was trying to give Zuko the benefit until he was banished. But it's supposed to be Zuko's neglected, and the only person that loved him was his mother until she disappeared.
Yes.
So
and I think
it feels like he's just a shitty dad instead of the dad that plays favorites. Like, I don't know.
correct.
Like, that was
correct.
weird.
And he is a shitty dad. He's a terrible father. But
yeah, she's still
he
a shitty
plays
dad.
favorites.
Yeah,
He's still a shitty dad, but he plays favorites. And the biggest thing too with Azula is she lightning bends at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
When she's training for her dad because he wants to see what she can do, and the lightning bending looked awful. It shouldn't be in her palms. It should be in her fingertips. That's the whole thing with the bending in the show. It looks like they're doing magic instead of it being martial art based. And again, yes, okay, so they showed her lightning bending. She's a prodigy. She's the prodigy from the start. Azula's flames are blue because she's stronger. There's a line from the show, and it's in one of the comics as well, that Zuko says, "My father always told me that Azula was born lucky, and I was lucky to be born." I don't get that feeling in the show at all. I don't get that Azula was, born lucky and born talented. It seems like she was born the same way as Zuko.
Yeah, it seems like I hope there's a lot more development with her character. Again, I like showing her in this first season. I think it's something that is missing in the original. Like, introducing her, I think, brings in another element, but I don't think they're going about it correctly. To where Azula is supposed to be the brat that she is. Like, she's supposed to be so entitled because of how good she is. She's supposed to be her father's favorite. She's supposed to be that from the jump. Zuko's never really supposed to have a spot in anything because it's always supposed to be taken up by Azula. Not he sent you away so that Azula could get better.
Yeah, no,
because they even directly say that.
At the end, Azula goes and she does that's when we meet her in the second season, is that she does take over Omashu. But I didn't need the development of her being a good firebender to get me there.
No, I want I want, just show me her character. She's not supposed to be a character that has growth. She's a static character that she is the same from the start to the end. She's evil. She's menacing. She's crazy. No, I mean, that's her change. She gets more crazy. But
she gets more crazy. But that craziness that she develops in the show isn't because of her dad and her dad pulling strings. It's because her friends realize, no, you're crazy. And she has a mental breakdown over it.
All right.
So there is trauma there, but
it's a lot of there is, but I don't know. Her character felt off. Again, I like adding her in. I like giving her storyline. I think it's something that could have been missing from the original show. Giving Azula a storyline in the first season, showing us more of the Fire Kingdom, or the Fire Nation, even though they're not directly involved with Aang and Zuko at that exact moment. I think that's great. I think like showing that is cool because it's going to give you more insight to your villains that you are going to develop for the next 2 seasons. But I think they went about Azula wrong.
Outside
That's
of it,
just really
not a perfect adaptation. It wasn't fantastic, but I didn't hate everything about it. So
no, I don't know. It just makes I'll watch the second season when it comes out. My hopes won't be as high, but I think my hopes are still high for the other animation projects that they're going to be coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for the movie.
They dropped an actual timeline for that one. I think just like right when the show came out, basically saying I think it was 10 of 25 or something. Like they gave it like a hard date on it, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for the movie.
coming out.
I'm excited for the new series. You know, I am excited for all things Avatar that are coming out outside of Netflix.
Yep. So now we're gonna get into. Sorry, I think we just spent like a fucking hour on Avatar. So if you don't care about Avatar, I'm so sorry that you picked this episode to listen to. But if you loved Avatar, I hope you liked this entire hour-long segment that we spent on this. But what I also saw over the weekend, there's a lot of cramming over the weekend with media, because we had to have content to talk about, and it was One Love, the Bob Marley biopic.
How was it?
It was great. It was. I went in, and you know what's weird? It's because biopics are kind of formulaic. You know, like it's very easy. You show them as a kid, you show the rise and the grind, you show them getting their first contract, you see them getting into fame, you see them fall, you see them come back. It's kind of just how the biopic works, you know? In the Bob Marley biopic, they kind of pick up a weird spot where he's already famous, which I thought was interesting. They give a lot of flashbacks to his childhood and his start, so I think the format is what kept me really interested, because I went into it, I'm like, all right, so I go into this, and I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the biggest Bob Marley fan. Yeah, I have his records on my phone. I listen to him every now and then. But, you know, I think we all have memories of sitting in a basement with a bunch of white kids just playing Exodus and fucking sparking a bong or passing a joint and thinking you are so cool because you're hanging out with a bunch of kids that know nothing about Rasta listening to Bob Marley while you smoke weed. I had that experience too, and I think almost all of us did.
I think that's a New Jersey thing. I think that's a New Jersey thing. I don't know. I didn't have that experience. I didn't have that experience.
You never smoked? Well, I have more white friends than you. So
well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that's why. I think that's the problem.
You never smoked and listened to Bob Marley?
No.
No, I think I'm right. I think I'm right here. I think you're in the wrong. I think you need to talk to some other people.
I didn't grow up right. That's what it is.
Not the point. So I
wasn't raised right.
I still revisit Bob Marley. I have good memories of Bob Marley. So I went into the biopic like, cool, I'm gonna learn more because I know his music, but I don't really know too much about the artist himself, other than that he's the biggest Jamaican artist to ever come about and is like the definition of music when it comes to Rasta. So yeah, it picked up at a weird spot where he's already famous, and at this point. And I think it's interesting because at the time of his upbringing, you are in war-torn Jamaica. Like, you are in poverty. You are in war. You are, like, in the midst of so much that they could have drawn from in his early years that they chose not to go that way, which I thought was really interesting. They pick up from his first Free Peace concert in Jamaica. Basically, in all of what's happening, the civil war that was going on, he throws a free concert to promote peace, which is the most Bob Marley thing you could ever think of. And he is so lovable in this movie. Like, it does a great job of just showing you just how probably the nicest person that could have ever got stardom. Like, just it captures what he always showed himself to be. So it picks up there where he's already famous. He's the biggest artist in Jamaica. He's starting to become an international superstar, and it follows him from that moment through the creation of the Exodus album, um, to his death, which is not a long period of time. It's like a good 5 or 6 years. So it only focuses on 5 or 6 years of his life, which is probably the biggest ones. Most of this movie doesn't take place in Jamaica; it takes place in London, where he wrote Exodus. Um, and it was really interesting, and I think something that they do that I think is fun is that they're almost telling the story strictly from his lens, not something that's omniscient like most movies do, because they throw a lot of things that are in your face that as an audience you pick up on like really easily, that him as a character does not, and it speaks to the goodness and the naivety of his character. So there's a lot of things that you're seeing that and you're like, yeah, of course. Like they're being very blatant, but it's showing that he doesn't know anything that's wrong because he doesn't know the badness of people, or he's just so naive that he chooses not to see it. Um, it goes into a lot of things about him just not caring about money. He wants to go with the message. He wants to reach people in Africa. Like the nobody wanted Exodus, the album, to look like that, like the cover, because if you know the Exodus album cover, it's just a golden album cover with like red letters. Especially at the time, there, like you're talking about like the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's band, like you blast the band on the cover. Like this is around the same timing of this. You put the band on the cover, you put it real big, you make it real colorful because you need to catch people's attention, and because they're not buying Exodus, they're buying Bob Marley to find out what Exodus is, because this isn't the time of streaming. You
Okay.
know, you don't know everything. You can't just pick up the song and figure out if you like it. Either you heard it on the radio, or you know Bob Marley and you're just picking it up so that you can hear what he did. Um, his name is barely on there. It's just Exodus over the face, and it shows just him just not caring and just saying that he wants to do what he does because Rasta and the Arch was all that he ever cared about. Um, it was a good biopic. I like that it went against the grain. It didn't give me the same formula that I got with every other biopic. Um, he has an interesting story that I didn't know about, which is also cool because a lot of biopics I go into, I usually know what's happening before it even happens. Um, it was a good biopic. I don't think it was a great biopic, but it was good. I liked watching it. If you can't follow a Jamaican accent, though, they were really accurate with that shit. So, there's a couple lines I was like, repeat that? Rewind? Sorry. I'm not familiar.
I didn't have my captions on when I was watching this.
Yeah. Yeah, I needed the captions on in the movie theater. Yeah, I tried to tell them. They didn't listen. But also his family was in on the production of this, so they, tried to depict it in the most accurate light possible. Thought the acting was phenomenal. I'm sorry I don't have the cast list pulled up. But whoever played him and his wife, whoever played all the Wailers, which were the people in his band, the way they went about everything was, I think, great. I think nothing was done badly. Nothing was done poorly. It was shot wonderfully. The characters were brought great. I like the perspective they had on it. I like that they didn't follow the formula. Um, Generally like this movie. But I know you didn't get a chance to see it. But
I have not.
Now I have biopics on the brain, so we wanted to try out a little game here. Something that I'm sure you've seen all over the internet and other places doing it other things. He's gonna be doing a blind ranking
Oh God.
of biopics.
Okay. I'm nervous.
Yes, I'm pretty positive you've seen all these.
I
If
hope
you
so.
haven't, just let me know. We're gonna start off here. You have five. You have five to choose from. So order 1 through 5. 1 being the best, 5 being the worst, and then everything in between in sequential order.
Okay.
The Dirt, the Motley Crue.
Oh, it's good. It is good. Okay. Am I doing these as I go?
As you go, it's blind.
Fuck.
You gotta pick a spot and hope that things aren't better or worse from the spot that you want them at.
So the Motley Crue movie is good. It does take a lot of artistic liberties with it. It's not like a normal biopic. I don't think it's the best biopic though. I think it is good. I'll go number 3.
Okay, and I will give you this just in case it helps you. They're all music based. It's all music biopics. I'm not like gonna shoot you Wolf of Wall Street at the end of this. Like, no, it's just it's
What do
all.
you think about Jordan's story?
Yeah. Okay.
3.
Rocket Man, the Elton John biopic.
Shit. I liked Taron Egerton in that movie. I don't know. I didn't really connect with it as much. I like it was good, but so I'll go 4.
Okay. Straight Outta Compton, the NWA biopic.
This is partially why I was holding out like my number 1 spot, because I was like, if that's on there, then it's got to go up there. But if there's a trash movie that ends up in my number 1, I think NWA's got to be number 1 for me.
All right. Elvis, the Elvis biopic.
5.
5. All right. So in your number 2 spot, you're getting Bohemian Rhapsody, the Queen biopic.
I'm not mad at that.
So in your blind rankings, you're going Straight Outta Compton, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Dirt, Rocket Man, Elvis.
And I don't know. I might, like, if I was looking at it, maybe I'd swap Rocket Man and The Dirt. But I think Elvis is probably my least favorite.
Okay. So that was going to be my next question. If now that you know the actual movies, would you change your rankings?
I could, depending on the last one I watched, I could swap NWA with Bohemian Rhapsody. They're both incredible.
Yeah, they're both fantastic. I personally put Straight Outta Compton as my number 1.
Yeah.
Mostly because my gripe is that it's not really a Queen biopic. It's mostly a Freddie Mercury biopic. But it's still amazing.
It's 100% just a Freddie Mercury movie that they tried to pass off as a Queen movie.
So for that reason, I usually give Straight Outta Compton the edge, but I think they are an interchangeable 1 and 2. After that, I think I'm pretty much even with you. I actually might swap Elvis and Rocket Man. I wasn't a huge fan of the Elton John one just because I felt like the musical aspect was odd. Went with who Elton John is, but I just felt it odd and how it was formatted.
Yeah.
But my point of saying this is that One Love was not Bohemian Rhapsody or Straight Outta Compton.
Okay.
But I do think it is as good as The Dirt. I do think it's better than Rocket Man and Elvis. So it's a good movie. It's a solid movie. It's worth a watch, and it's probably worth a rewatch 2 or 3 years down the line. But it's not a great movie.
Okay.
Nothing it did wrong, but nothing it did amazing. I definitely think it's worth the watch. It's a cool story. Again, if you don't know the story of him, I didn't. It's nice to see him and nice to see the light that he's depicted in, because the music he made doesn't automatically assume the person he was. And it kind of shows that he was kind of that person. So, which is refreshing, because usually with these biopics, you're seeing people who go into music with high hopes and then end up addictions and drugs and alcohol and hookers and near-death experiences and the rise and fall. And it's more just a sweet story of a guy.
Was that just all Motley Crue?
That was Motley Crue, but that's also Bohemian Rhapsody, also Straight Outta Compton. Like, it is the formula for biopics, which again, it was refreshing to see it, because it was almost like you're watching a music biopic, but at the same time, you're almost watching a biopic of a historical figure. Like, you're almost watching someone like within a civil rights doc. Like, it's refreshing, like, to see a good character in one of these. But that note, we can move on to, I promise you guys, I know this episode's probably long, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
And, because this one actually is an adaptation, but it's so different from the movie, which you haven't seen.
Yes, all right. So let me just disclose this. I haven't seen the original Mr. and Mrs. Smith. When the show came out, I said that I was going to watch it. Listen, look, we're not professionals. We have day jobs still. I have a child. I can't get to everything. And that's also part of our opinions here. We're not critics.
Yeah.
I haven't seen everything under the sun. I apologize. I haven't seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'm going to get on it soon, because I was supposed to watch it before this came out, and I didn't.
I will say, I think a lot of people should watch this show, and I don't want to get into too heavy spoilers like we did with Avatar, because I do think it is worth a watch because it is also significantly different from the movie. I will say I think the main actors, Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, is fantastic. I think they are absolutely awesome as John and Jane.
Donald never disappoints.
And
I swear to God, I've never saw him and thought, oh, also, dude, freaking Community, Abed was playing in Avatar. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's hilarious. But yeah, I've never seen him in a bad role. He's so fantastic. I loved what he brought to this character as someone who is murderous and has experience with things, but he's still casual and funny, like almost that you would for somebody that is borderline, I would say, psychopathic, that can like do this type of work. Like he's so nonchalant and only cares about stupid things but not real things.
I think their relationship is
just
hilarious.
Oh yeah,
And
I loved it.
and like you said, like even he's kind of a psycho. She's a sociopath for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's an interesting pairing. It's an interesting concept. See, for you and for anybody who hasn't seen the original movie, in the original with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, they are both spies working for rival spy agencies, and they get married, and they have no idea. So they're not like they're the best spies in their agencies, but they don't know that they married another spy. Their agencies find out and put a hit out on them to try and get them to kill each other because they can't have that happening. Very different approach here.
I'm still a little familiar with how the story pans through. Again, just haven't seen it.
Yep.
But so I knew from the jump, as soon as, again, we're not going to get into spoilers, but as soon as you jump into this, it's nothing like it.
It's nothing like that.
Like it's.
There's also, I will say too, what I love, the supporting cast is fantastic. Paul Dano plays the neighbor in this.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Perlman blew me away in the episode he was in. He was so good. Sarah Paulson is awesome. I don't know if you knew this. His mother is actually his mom. That's Donald.
Is it actually?
That's Donald Glover's mom.
Oh,
that plays
sick.
his mom in the show. Yeah. It was awesome. One of the things that was definitely pulled from the movie is that the therapist scene, that whole episode with the therapist. In the movie, the movie starts with them in therapy, in couples therapy, and it kind of continues throughout the movie. I kind of wish they used that gimmick a little bit more throughout the show, because I liked that episode. And I think it could have made it work doing it throughout, but it still works. I think the show was awesome. The action was cool. Ends on a cliffhanger, so for anybody who's gonna watch it, be prepared to just it ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting a second season. I haven't heard anything about a second season.
It probably will. It's only been out for 2 weeks now, so I wouldn't be surprised if it does.
But it's also, it leaves you on a spot where it might piss you off that it's a cliffhanger, but at the same time, it's not leaving you in a spot to be that's like, oh, to be continued. Like, it's not obvious that, like, oh, we're making another one. Like, it's just like, it's a cliffhanger. It's not something that's like, well, you're going to know the answer. It's like, you might if we make another one. We don't know.
John Turturro also has he's one of the supporting characters in one of the first episodes. The second episode, I think, at the auction episode.
Yes.
He's awesome. He's such a weirdo, and he's awesome. Their development between the two characters is awesome. I think there's a lot of chemistry between the two of them.
Yeah, I liked how they grew as a couple because, I mean, this is like the first scene, so I don't care. Basically, they get paired up through a kind of spy agency, maybe not spy agency, something illegal, something government. They get paired up basically to do odd and dirty jobs. They get paired up as man and wife because it's inconspicuous. You get paired up, you're automatically John and Jane, and you do these things while living a civilian life to not draw attention. So it's a cool premise. It's a cool thing. So they get paired up as strangers, and their relationship is that of strangers. So you get to see them. They're basically married. They're married at first sight. And and you get to see them develop as people, as solo characters. You see their relationship grow, and the main plot of this isn't the spy thriller. It is these two people living together that knew nothing of each other, fall in love, and deal with the 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 backlash of being in a relationship. Like
Yeah.
everything feels so real, which is why like you might think of like a better casting than like Donald Glover for a role like this. But I think he's the perfect person because he's so nonchalant and still goes in like these crazy tangents for different things that might not matter, but they do matter to you. Like as if, he's just a guy in a relationship.
Well, I think
Like the
that's.
little things cause a fight and the big things cause you to laugh about it, and you're just trying to make it through life, and that's really what the show's about.
I think you're right. That's the whole point of the story, and that's what they're trying to do outside of them being spies and them killing people. That's just the driving force. That's how they're telling the story. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
there
we
to
discussed
push
this the last episode.
Yeah.
Everything, everywhere, all at once is just a story that's driven
about a family, but it's driven through the multiverse. Yeah, it's
yes. This is a story of a man and a wife figuring it out through the world, just as spies.
Like spies. Yeah.
That's the core of it, and that's what I think makes it so entertaining.
Yeah. Another fun fact for you. I guess we can kind of leave it at that because I don't really want to get too much into it. I really want people to watch it and be surprised and go through the journey with them. The actress who plays Jane, Maya, she plays the lead character in Blue Eye Samurai.
And guess what? Did you watch it?
Nope, but you did.
Yeah. Callback from a couple episodes ago where I said he has to watch Blue Eyed Samurai, which is an amazing Netflix original anime. And he said, I'm going to watch it. Didn't watch it.
But I watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith. She's in it. She's in both.
My opinions are wasted here.
I'm going to go watch it. There's another new anime that's out on HBO Max, I think. That's another ninja one. That looks cool.
I haven't seen it. But I will say, Prime, kind of killing it with the originals, dude. Like I just saw a preview for another Prime show with John Cena. I don't really know much about it, but I saw a preview. John Cena's a killer. I fucking love him.
Did we ever talk about, speaking of John Cena, he has that movie coming out. What's it called? It's a comedy with Zac Efron.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure that's through Prime.
It's a movie, I think, though. I think it's a movie.
Is it a movie? I thought it was a show.
It looks hilarious. It looks absolutely hilarious. John Cena's so funny.
I don't care what anybody says. He's the best actor to ever come out of WWE. He's so much better than The Rock.
It's not The Rock's fault that The Rock looks like The Rock.
Well, it's not John Cena's fault that he looks like John Cena, but John Cena picks up diverse roles. Ricky Stenicki.
Yes.
Batista's good, but I don't see him in enough.
Ricky Stenicki.
Yes, he does great as like Drax, I like him as Drax, and he did good in Knives Out, but
he was good in Knives Out. He was in
not enough of Batista, not enough diversity with Batista. He's always just kind of a big, dumb, funny guy. Like he's not.
Did you see him in M. Night Shyamalan's movie with Jonathan Groff? The cabin one? A knock at the cabin?
I know what you're talking about. No,
he was good in that, actually. Very mellow character. Very different character than you see him as Like, he's not that dumb, lovable guy. Very good in that. That movie it's all right, but
yeah. John Cena is fantastic. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that's one coming through Prime. I just saw it. Yeah, Ricky Stenicki, which is something I literally just started seeing trailers for. I think the trailer started just coming out. But yeah, I think pretty positive that's a Prime one. It's not coming up fast enough for me to care. But right on the poster, John Cena's in a dress
with the boots and everything.
Yeah, is that? Holy shit! Okay, it looks like it has a crazy cast going for it right now. Not the point. This isn't what this episode's.
No. these shows are. I highly recommend Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Avatar. If you are a longtime fan of the cartoon, watch it or don't. There are some really great additions, though, like we talked about. There's some scenes in there that I loved with Iroh, the 41st. All of that stuff was fantastic. There were changes that I absolutely hated, and hope for better in season 2.
Yeah, I will say, just to wrap up how my feelings were on Avatar, I didn't like Katara as much. I didn't like Aang as much. I liked Sokka probably just as much, and I liked Zuko more. That's kind of my rundown of the main cast. Iroh, I'm still 50-50 on. I don't think I like him as much as the animation, but I like him more than I did at the start of it. Azula needs some growing. Ozai, I probably like just as much.
Awesome.
I
Terrifying.
probably like Ozai just as much, if not more. He's terrifying in live action. So that's just kind of how I feel about the characters. Some I don't like. The only one that I really like more is Zuko. I think they did a great
And I think
job with
Suki
Zuko.
was good in the one episode, And I know that we won't see her again for
Suki
later,
was
but
good. Yeah. But all right, that was this week's episode of the Beer and Skittles podcast. I hope you like Avatar, or else you might not listen to us again. Promise we'll have different content next time, and we'll try to wrap it up a little sooner. But thank you guys for listening, and we hope you tune in next week.
Thank you.